EX40 is pretty much everything you'd expect a Volvo full EV model to be, but in its earlier form badged as the 𝗙cie𝗹𝗹 𝗙E, this car needed a few tweaks. It's had them. In recent times, with this design, the base single-motor front-driven version's been replaced by a rear-driven variant with longer range, and the dual-motor all-wheel drive model has got a larger battery, so goes further too. Adding new EX40 badging has completed the transition, creating the car we're going to look at in this film. As before, the drawback is premium pricing, but otherwise, a lot of boxes seem to have been ticked here.
Volvo's first full EV was this car, originally called the 𝗙cie𝗹𝗹 𝗙E, and now known as the EX40. Time to take a fresh look at it. We didn't actually see this car in its original 𝗙cie𝗹𝗹 badged form until 2020, long after most rival makers had entered the full electric segment. And that delay was strange because Volvo had previously been near the forefront of the trend towards electrification. The company was, after all, one of the very first to popularise plug-in hybrid powertrains in its models. And at the end of the last decade, played a significant role in helping to establish one of the most forward-thinking electric brands on the market, Polestar. That Polestar link is strong here. This model shares its CMA platform and virtually all its engineering with a Polestar 2, which meant it also got the substantial range of engineering updates made to that small Polestar in late 2023. Shortly after these were introduced, Volvo decided that the electric side of the 𝗙cie𝗹𝗹 model line needed more of its own identity. So, in early 2024, the EV variants were separated from their combustion counterparts by a new name, EX40, creating the car we're going to look at here. To find out more, you're going to need the usual comprehensive car and driving road test. There are three flavours of EX40 on offer. Most customers will opt for the 69 kWh single motor version, which was once, in this car's original 𝗙cie𝗹𝗹 𝗙E form, front driven. But the Swedish makers now moved the E-motor to the rear axle and slightly uprated its output to 238 horsepower. Without any real impact on performance. Rest to 62 miles an hour is dispatched in 7.3 seconds, on the way to the 112 miles an hour top speed that all Volvos these days share. EV driving range is WLTP rated at up to 296 miles. Ideally though, you'd want to stretch at least as far as the mid-level single-motor extended range rear-driven model, which has 252 horsepower and uses a larger 78 kilowatt-hour battery, providing for a 345-mile range. The faster EX40 alternative is the twin-motor all-wheel drive variant, which uses a larger 82 kilowatt-hour battery pack and twin electric motor setup that has adopted different front and rear E-motors with 150 and 258 horsepower respectively. These provide for a prodigious 408 horsepower total power output figure in the standard twin motor model, but if for some unfathomable reason that's not enough, you can boost it further to 442 horsepower with the optional performance software upgrade that comes included with the two added Black Edition trim grades. This upgrade was one of the few changes introduced as part of this design's transition to EX40 status. Even with the standard twin-motor EX40 variant, performance is startling, a massive 670 Nm of torque, at which point the main motor is spinning at a heady 14,000 RPM, catapulting the car to 62 miles an hour in just 4.7 seconds. Whatever kind of EX40 you choose, to get the kind of range figure that Volvo claims, you'll need to engage what the Swedish manufacturer calls one-pedal drive, selectable from the driving menu provided on this centre dash screen. This dramatically increases the regenerative braking effect when you come off the throttle, to the point where the brake pedal will hardly ever be needed. Otherwise, you'll be driving with an automatic brake regen mode that slows itself at lower speeds, or when you're approaching roundabouts and junctions, but otherwise coasts. Unlike with many rivals, there are no steering wheel paddle shifters that would allow you manual control of the regen system. And like Tesla, Volvo doesn't trust you with that. As with this Volvo's near identically engineered Polestar 2 close cousin, the braking system's excellent, seamlessly blending friction and regeneration retardation. On the subject of the Polestar 2, by the way, we should point out that the EV mileage figures we gave earlier for this Volvo are significantly down on equivalent versions of that car, for reasons which probably have much to do with weight and this EX40's boxier shape. Talking of weight, in the single motor form you're more likely to want, an EX40 is around 350 kilograms heavier than the equivalent combustion XC40 B3 mild hybrid model, and you'll certainly feel that at speed through tight corners. Ride quality though is pleasantly supple and better than most similarly sized EV rivals, aided by this EV variant's switch to a softer touring suspension setup. That doesn't deliver a very sharp feel through the bends, but the distinctly modest level of feedback through the electric steering rack doesn't encourage you to seek that anyway, even if you use the centre screen option that switches the steering to its firmer setting. The switch of name to EX40 hasn't been accompanied by any significant visual changes, but this electric model had already been given some of those in recent times. You'll find most of those most recent updates here at the front, where differences over the very earliest electric XC40s include this smarter front bumper and this frameless front grille. The grille, as you can see, is blanked off, because of course there's no engine to cool, which is the main visual difference marking out this full electric EX40 model from the combustion-engined XC40 versions of this SUV. This sort of thing is rarely a great adornment for an EV, and it isn't here. Another more recent visual change to this design lies in the way that the signature Thor's hammer headlights have been augmented with state-of-the-art pixel LED light technology. From the side, the looks of this Volvo remain distinctive, divisive even. Perhaps a little unkindly, one writer likened the profile perspective of this car to that of an old-fashioned pram. You might visualise the Tonka toys you played with as a child, or perhaps designer Ian Kettle's robot transformers. Almost everyone we've spoken to sees the style of this car in a slightly different way and seems to have an opinion, which in itself is a good reason to like it. The rear is less willfully controversial, but very stylish, with a look that, if you know your premium SUVs, could only belong to a Volvo. That's thanks to these 3D tail lights that emphasise the body shoulder line and border the tailgate, flowing up into this smart roof-mounted spoiler. Right, what about the interior? Is it as young and different as the exterior tries to be? Well, to be frank, not really. This cabin is slightly starting to feel its age in comparison to the most modern of its many competitors. Though Volvo has done its best to lift things, notably with the striated plastic trimming panels you get if you avoid base level trim, which illuminate translucently at light. There are few giveaways to this Volvo's battery-powered remit, save for a few EV-specific electronic gauges. There's no starter button, just a blanking plate where that would be on a petrol XC40. Delve into the workings of the central portrait-style 9-inch screen, and you'll find that the infotainment system is powered by Android, which means you get a raft of over-the-air Google features, including maps and YouTube music built in. The other screen you'll be using is the 12.3-inch progressive driver display that you view through this pleasingly chunky 3-spoke wheel. What else? Well, over-the-shoulder vision is slightly restricted, but that's alleviated on most models by a rear camera and all-round sensors. As for cabin practicality, well, there are plenty of stowage receptacles, plus some nice touches like this lift-out centre bin and a hook that folds out of the glove box for handbags or takeaways. OK, let's try out the back. Because the EX40's basic architecture was designed to accommodate a full electric powertrain from the start, there are no compromises over combustion versions when it comes to rear seat legroom, aided by the relatively lengthy wheelbase, which is just as well because legroom back here is not overly generous in comparison to the class norm, and adults won't want to travel long distances here. The boxy shape means that headroom's fine though, even if you've got this panoramic glass roof fitted. As is unfortunately quite common on cars in this class, you'll struggle to accommodate 3 adults over longer distances because of this very prominent centre transmission tunnel, the sort of thing that you'd think would be unnecessary on an EV variant like this one. Something we've always referenced on this design is the way that the angled style of the rear C-pillar might create something of a claustrophobic feel back here for younger folk. If you've children, take them along on the test drive to make sure they'll be happy back here. Perhaps the potential for gaming, facilitated by the added USB-C charging ports, will take their mind off it. As you'd expect, there's a central armrest incorporating a pair of cup holders, plus beverages can also sit in the provided moulded recesses in the little carpeted door pockets. In addition, there are the usual seat back pockets, and you get little storage trays between the seat base edges and the doors. The vertical, rather futuristic air vents used at the front make an appearance back here too. Finally, let's take a look in the boot. Now, the standard power-operated tailgate raises to reveal a low loading lip, over which you access a cargo area rated at 404 litres up to the window line, which is pretty much the same as in a combustion XC40, and incidentally, this model's Polestar 2 close cousin. That isn't huge by class standards. That in a Tesla Model Y, for instance, is far bigger, but it will probably be quite sufficient for the needs of most owners. There are some really nice convenience touches here, principally this neat divider, which is standard above base trim and can rise and divide the space laterally to stop your shopping from floating about. The hinges of this divider even stand proud of its top edge, giving you hooks from which you can hang your shopping bags. There's a ski hatch provided for longer items, and if you push forward the 60/40 split backrest, up to 1,336 litres of total capacity is revealed if you load to the roof. This full electric model also gets an additional 31-litre frunk storage space beneath the bonnet for things like your charging leads. The EX40 model comes with a choice of single or dual motor powertrains and a choice of either Core Plus, Plus Black Edition, Ultra or Ultra Black Edition levels of trim. Prices start from around $46,000 for the rear-driven 69 kWh single motor version, a base drivetrain only offered with the cheapest Core and Plus specs. But most customers will want to find the £1,750 extra needed for the bigger battery 78 kWh single motor extended range powertrain, offered with all the trim levels. There's then a step up in price of around £3,500 to get your EX40 with 2 motors rather than 1, and you get yourself the 82 kWh all-wheel drive twin motor model, which costs from just under £58,000 in standard 408 horsepower form. If you want that twin motor drivetrain in its upgraded 442 HP performance form, then you'll need one of the 2 Black Edition spec levels. Got all that? Excellent. Whatever kind of EX40 you do decide upon, it's worth pointing out that almost no one considering this car will be thinking in terms of purchasing it outright. In most cases, they won't even be buying it from a dealer. This pure electric model was the first of the brand's cars to be offered exclusively online, which is the way that all future pure electric Volvos will apparently be sold. You could still go into a dealership and order it if you want, but it's probably easier just to go online and order it from home, probably using the Care by Volvo subscription service, which is the way that up to 95% of EX40 models are likely to be acquired. As for rivals, well, it's difficult to ignore the fact that all the same engineering can be had with greater drive range from Polestar 2, and that costs around £1,000 less in direct model comparisons, and at the time of this test had offers that made it cheaper still. Volvo's clearly priced this EX40 against the 3 main premium compact EV crossover rivals it wants to target: BMW's iX1, Audi's Q4 e-tron and the Mercedes EQA, all of which are pricier, but all of which have greater driving range. If you're not really hung up on premiumness or don't think Volvo has really achieved that here, then your choice in this class, of course, widens considerably. The most obvious alternatives include cars like Tesla's Model Y, Hyundai's Ioniq 5, Kia's EV6, Skoda's Enyaq, Volkswagen's ID.4, Vauxhall's Grandland Electric, Nissan's Ariya, Toyota's BZ4X, the Peugeot E3008, the Lexus UX300e and the Ford Explorer. And you could also factor in the Xpeng G6, Leap Motors C10, Cupra's Tavascan, the BYD Sea Lion 7, the Genesis GV60, Skywell's BE11, KGM's Torres EVX, and Alfa Romeo's Junior Elettrica. Lots of options then. If you've decided it is an EX40 that you want, then you're going to need to know just how generous Volvo has been with standard spec. So let's take a look at that now. All models get full LED headlights with active high beam, alloy wheels of at least 19 inches in size, a powered tailgate, rear parking sensors and auto headlamps and wipers, plus roof rails and high gloss silver front and rear skid plates. There's cruise control, adjustable steering force for the speed sensitive steering, and hill descent control with an off-road drive mode. You get a very complete level of camera safety kit too, and we'll brief you on that in a moment. Inside, on all EX40s, you get a 12.3-inch screen in the instrument binnacle to replace conventional dials. And there's a wireless phone charger, a load protection net, and 2-zone electronic climate control, complete with Volvo's Clean Zone air quality system and pollen filter. The front seats have heating and lumbar support. There's also a very complete media connectivity offering, accessed via a 9-inch centre console portrait touchscreen with Volvo's Android infotainment setup developed by Google. This system includes worldwide navigation on Google Maps, advanced voice recognition by the old Google Assistant, and access to the Google Play Store for a range of in-car apps. The adoption of Google Assistant brings huge advances in voice control, allowing customers to control the car's major functions, perform detailed web searches, and even connect to Google connected devices at home, merely by speaking. And of course, via the centre screen, you can do all the conventional things as well, like accessing an 8-speaker, 250-watt high-performance sound DAB audio system, using Bluetooth or navigation, or linking into wired Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto smartphone mirroring. There's YouTube access as well. The touchscreen receives software updates over the air, so the system's functionality will continue to improve as the technology develops. And all of this is in addition to the Volvo Cars app connected services platform, which is fitted to every new Volvo. This enables customers to control various aspects of their car's functions from their smartphone, smartwatch or tablet. For example, the car's cabin can be remotely heated or cooled before your journey, doors can be unlocked and locked, and you can make the car's headlights flash or sound the horn to help locate the car if you've forgotten where you left it in a car park. Extra functionality added to the pure electric version of this EX40 includes mapping that shows the location of charging stations and route planning that will include stops at charging points if necessary. Most EX40 customers upgrade themselves at least as far as mid-level plus specs so that they get some key extra items, such as the heat pump that preserves range in cold weather, Volvo's semi-autonomous pilot assist drive system with adaptive cruise control, keyless entry, the flexible load floor with its grocery bag holder, and a couple of things that lift the interior: suede, textile, microtech upholstery, and the illuminated topography fascia inlays. Plus, at this level, there's a heated steering wheel, driver's seat power adjustment, LED front fog lamps, front parking sensors, and heated rear seats. Top Ultra spec further adds active bending pixel LED headlights, a 360-degree parking camera system, larger 20-inch wheels, a panoramic sunroof, and a 12-speaker Harman Kardon 600-watt audio upgrade. All of which also features with the Black Edition variants, which are marked out by high-gloss black exterior trimming and onyx black paint. As this is a Volvo, you'd expect it to be super safe, and you shouldn't be disappointed. The emergency brake assist and city safety autonomous braking systems can detect pedestrians and cyclists. Plus, there's a lane keeping aid, oncoming lane mitigation, runoff road protection, a road sign information display, and all the usual airbags, including a driver's knee bag, an e-call system, and Volvo's award-winning 𝗙់𝗹𝗹𝗙 or side impact protection setup. Avoid base trim, and you also get a blind spot information system with steer assist, cross-traffic alert with auto brake and rear collision warning, and mitigation. We've already given you this EX40 model's operating range in our driving experience section, a maximum of 296 miles for the base single motor model, up to 343 miles for the single motor extended range version, and up to 332 miles for the twin motor version. Across the range, Volvo claims an electrical consumption figure of between 3.6 and 3.8 miles per kilowatt hour. All these figures position this Volvo competitively in its segment, but there's still some way from being up with the class leaders. Thank this Swedish contender's portly curb weight, around 2 tonnes, for that. Even to achieve this Volvo's stated figure, you're going to need to make a lot of use of the one pedal drive feature that maximises regenerative braking. Still, at least charging times are competitive. The base single motor model DC charges at up to 135 kilowatts, and the single motor extended range version DC charges at up to 155 kilowatts, meaning a 10 to 80% public DC charge now requires 33 minutes. The top twin motor version DC charges at up to 205 kilowatts, which reduces the 10 to 80% DC charge time to 28 minutes. As for AC charging from home, well, with a typical single-phase 7.4 kilowatt garage wall box, for a full charge you'll need 11 hours with the base 69 kilowatt hour battery, 12 hours with the mid-level 78 kilowatt hour battery, and 13 hours with the twin motor version's 82 kilowatt hour battery. You could reduce these durations to around 8 hours with a faster 3-phase 11 kilowatt supply. There are, of course, lots of taxation advantages in running an EV. With this one, as with its main rivals, you'll be rated at just 2% for BIK taxation until this is reviewed in spring 2025. There's the usual 3-year, 60,000 mile warranty, but the battery has its own 8-year, 100,000 mile cover. As usual with EVs, insurance won't be cheap, but residuals look potentially quite strong. Servicing will be at the same intervals as an ordinary XC40 every year, or 18,000 miles, whichever comes first. But the bill you get should be cheaper because there will be fewer consumables to replace. Though remember that with an EV, tyre wear tends to be greater than with a combustion model. The government talks about incentivising the sale of electric vehicles, but then progressively reduces buying incentives on them. Car manufacturers talk about wanting to increase the EV percentage of their sales, but then price full electric models beyond the reach of most buyers. It's a conundrum, and for the time being, it doesn't show any real signs of being solved. This EX40 model is a case in point. This Volvo is a very well-engineered little electric vehicle, but like all its direct rivals, it costs quite a considerable sum of money. There are lots of things we like, though, about what this Swedish manufacturer has tried to do here. The 𝗙𝗹𝗹𝗙 by Volvo finance package, the sophisticated Google-based tech for the media and pilot assist driving systems, and the practical front storage area. The brand's really thought carefully here, not only about what customers might want, but also really what they might really need in a premium EV of this kind. All of which makes this EX40 model a difficult car to ignore if you're seeking a premium compact crossover that allows you to more easily make that seismic switch to EV motoring. If an electric Volvo it has to be, you might be tempted to save yourself quite a lot and get the smaller EX30. But if you need the extra space with the famous 𝗙𝗹𝗹𝗙 maker's badge, then you might find in what's offered here a design that now has just a bit more of a spark.